All right, let's dive into a legal battle that's over 400 years old, but, feels like it could have been ripped from today's headlines. We're talking about the case of proclamations. This is the story of a powerful king who went head to head with the law itself, a real clash of titans.
And really, it all comes down to one huge question. Think about it. Can a ruler, a king, a president, anyone in charge, just invent a new crime out of thin air? Can they just wake up one day and say, you know what? That's illegal now. Okay, to get to the bottom of this, we've got to jump in our time machine and head back to England 1610. The air is thick with tension, and a major battle of wills is brewing. On one side, you've got Parliament, and on the other, the new King of England, James I. So, to really get what's happening here, you have to understand King James's whole deal. I mean, listen to this quote from him. Kings are justly called gods, for that they exercise a manner or resemblance of divine power upon earth. He wasn't kidding. He was a true believer in the divine right of kings. This idea that his power came straight from God, not from the people or parliament. And his go-to tool for wielding all this divine power? It was the royal proclamation. Now, for King James, this was way more than just a fancy public announcement. No, he believed these proclamations had the full, absolute force of law. When he spoke, that was the law. Period. And right there, that's the flashpoint. That's where the conflict really ignites. See, the king wasn't just making announcements. He was actively using these proclamations as a workaround to completely bypass Parliament. He was just creating new rules, even new laws, all on his own. And look, this wasn't some abstract theoretical debate. We're talking about real-world consequences. The king's proclamations were trying to create brand new crimes out of nowhere, banning things that had been perfectly legal, and even changing the fundamental common law of the land, all without a single vote from Parliament. I mean, you can just imagine the chaos and uncertainty this created for everyone. This really lays out the two clashing worldviews perfectly, doesn't it? On one side, you have the king saying, "My proclamations are law." But on the other, you have Parliament pushing back, saying, "Hold on, only we can create new laws, and the common law is supreme." I mean, a massive constitutional collision was pretty much inevitable at this point.
So, what's Parliament's next move? Well, this is where it gets really clever. Instead of starting a fight, they did something else. They took the problem to the judges. They basically turned this huge political power struggle into a legal question, dropping it right in the lap of the courts to decide. And the case lands with the Chief Justice, a man named Sir Edward Coke. Now, you have to understand, Coke was an absolute giant of the legal world. He was known for being brilliant, fiercely independent, and a hardcore defender of the common law against anyone who tried to mess with it, especially the king. So the stage is set, right? You've got the king, a man who believes he's basically God's representative on earth, on one side, and the entire integrity of the English legal system on the other. So, standing right there in front of the king himself, what did the court decide? Well, the court delivered a ruling that was an absolute bombshell. It was a landmark decision that would echo through the centuries, establishing a principle we now call the law above the king. And this is the heart of it. The knockout punch. The judges looked the king in the eye and said, "The king has no prerogative but that which the law of the land allows him." Let that sink in. What they were saying was, you, your majesty, do not make the law. You are subject to the law, just like every single one of your subjects. The court's ruling was actually beautifully simple. It basically broke down into 3 crystal clear points. Number 1, the king cannot create new offenses. He can't just make something illegal that was perfectly fine yesterday. Number 2, he can't change existing law. His proclamations don't get to override the common law or acts from Parliament. And number 3, proclamations can only be used to encourage people to follow the laws that are already on the books. I mean, that was a bombshell back in 1610. But okay, why are we still talking about it today? Why does a case from the 17th century still matter so much? Well, it's because this was never just about proclamations. This was about the very nature of power itself. What this case did was help cement one of the most important principles in modern society, the rule of law. And it's a simple, powerful idea that everyone and every institution, including the government itself, is subject to the law and has to answer to it. Absolutely no one gets to be above the law. And once that idea was out there, you can literally trace its ripple effect through history.
Just a few decades later, this very principle, that a monarch's power has limits, helped fuel the English Civil War. Fast forward to 1787, and it's a foundational idea for the framers of the U.S. Constitution, who were dead set on creating a government of laws, not of men. And even today, this ruling is a cornerstone of how we think about the separation of powers in democracies all across the globe. So when you boil it all down, the message from this 400-year-old case is just crystal clear. Executive power, whether it's held by a king, a president, or a prime minister, is not and can never be absolute. It has limits, and those limits are set by the law. And that, of course, brings us right back to today. The specific battle of 1610 might be over, but that core tension, it's absolutely timeless. So I'll leave you with this question. Where do you see this exact same struggle over the limits of executive power playing out in the world right now?